Just Stop Oil protesters targeted parts of central London today, bringing roads to a standstill. It led to the detention of a furious builder who tried his best to shove protesters out of the way while on his way to work. Joining me now to discuss is Chloe Naldrett, a Just Stop Oil spokesperson. Chloe, hello.
Hello, Vanessa. Thanks for having me on today.
Yes, it's good to have you on, but really, you can see there in the embodiment of that one particular builder the level of frustration and anger and fury and, I suppose, impatience and, despair as people once again want to just get on with their lives and their jobs and their appointments and go to hospital and do what they've got to do, and your protesters are stopping them.
Well, I completely understand that anger and that frustration, Vanessa, because I feel that as well. I'm a mother. I've got two children. They are 10 and 13. And our government won't even take the most basic first steps to protect and safeguard their future. So I feel that sense of anger and frustration as well, extremely keenly.
But Chloe, that builder, if you said to him, the government won't even take the first steps, as you've just said to me, to do what they need to do to protect the future of our children, he might well agree with you. He might well say, absolutely, of course. But he might also say, I'm just a builder. I've got to get to work. I've got to do some scaffolding. I've got to plaster a wall. I've got to build something. I can't just be sitting here waiting because the government won't do as you want them to do. Why are you targeting me and that guy behind me who's just trying to take his mum to her chemotherapy appointment and that lady behind who just wants to go to the supermarket and do a shop? What can we do? We're not the government, and yet it's us, the ordinary people who just want to get to work and live our lives, that are being punished. It's not senior ministers, it's not really the government.
Well, the important thing to say is that this disruption can end the moment the government chooses, because all we're waiting for is for them to make a meaningful statement that they will stop the expansion of new oil and gas fields in the North Sea and around the country. We've got new coal mines. We cannot have this happening because we are in a climate emergency, and the world's leading scientists and the government's own advisors are saying that we cannot take any new oil and gas out of the ground and protect a livable future for ourselves and for our children. So as soon as the government start acting appropriately, then we will be off the streets. But until then, this is the most important conversation that we can possibly be having right now. And unfortunately, it is this level of disruption of the public which gets people like me invited to have this conversation with you.
Well, you're on my show, and you're a delightful guest. You're a very charming person. You're highly eloquent. It's quite clear you really believe in what you're saying, and you believe it sincerely. It's quite clear you believe it on my behalf, on behalf of all the viewers and all the listeners. It's quite clear you believe it on behalf of the planet. But is this technique working? Sure, it gets you on my show. Yes, it does. It gets you on lots of other shows. It gets coverage on social media. It gets you publicity, definitely. But does it actually reach the people in power who need to make the changes that you want them to make? Is anything actually changing because of these protests?
Well, what we're seeing, Vanessa, really importantly, is that every major political party in this country, with the exception of the Conservatives, has adopted Just Stop Oil's demand. They are all saying no new oil and gas. So I think we are seeing it's working. But what we have to remember is that this is the only thing that has ever worked. When we've needed to create social change at this kind of scale, this sort of civil disruption and this civil resistance is the only thing that has ever worked. It's why you and I have the right to vote. It's why we have weekends. It's why we have maternity leave. It's why we have the right to love and to marry whoever we want in this country, because all of those things have been fought for us by people who were prepared to take this kind of disruptive action. So we know that it works. And if anyone's got any better ideas, please tell us, because the situation is absolutely dire, and we cannot solve this problem by writing nice letters to our MPs and signing petitions. We've actually got to get out on the streets, and we've got to demonstrate that this is a movement of ordinary people. I think what's really important to say here is that we are not the enemies of the people that are being disrupted. We're their neighbours. We are GPs, we are teachers, we are plumbers and electricians, and yes, builders as well. We're grandparents, we're parents. We are the ordinary people of this country who are doing what our government will not, for the benefit of all people.
But Chloe, I suppose one of the issues here, though, is this aspect of Just Stop Oil telling ordinary people that you are doing things on our behalf. You're doing it for me, for my listeners, for my viewers, because we can't or won't grasp how important this is. You understand, we don't. We're just trying to go to work, we're just trying to go to school, we're just trying to make a living, we're just trying to have fun, we're just trying to live our lives. But you at Just Stop Oil have a kind of superior sensitivity to this. You've got a kind of heightened awareness that we ordinary people don't have. And therefore you need, on our behalf, to take the action that we're not taking. The only problem is we haven't asked you to, we haven't elected you to, you haven't been put in any position whereby you are allowed by us or given our permission to act on our behalf. So you've taken it upon yourselves to be our mouthpiece and be our agitators and be our vehicles to achieve what you think we need to achieve without our consent and without our acceptance and without our permission. So in general in life, I, as an adult, don't want anyone else to take decisions on my behalf, tell me I don't understand my own predicament, and then effectively corral me and stop me doing what I want to do because they say that they know better than I do what I need or what my children need or what my descendants need. I don't want that. I'm an adult. I live in a democracy. I don't really want other people to tell me they know better than I do. Even if what they're trying to do is a good thing, it's altruistic, it's for the good of the planet, I still don't want them to circumvent my own views and hijack my own life. And I think lots of people, as you could see from that builder, I've just about had enough of it now.
Vanessa, I'm just going to go back and say it again. We are ordinary people. There's nothing special about people who are involved, who are supporting Just Stop Oil. We are ordinary people, and we're not listening to anybody other than what the scientists are saying, and all of that information is in the public realm.
I know, but Chloe, the moment you use the moment, I'm sorry, but Vanessa, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I have to, because the moment you use that phrase, we're just listening to what the scientists are saying. That's a phrase that's all too familiar to all of us. That's a phrase that comes straight out of COVID. We remember, don't we, Matt Hancock? We remember Chris Whitty. We remember Boris Johnson when he was Prime Minister telling us, following the science. And if we're adults, sentient beings, we know there are infinite ways of interpreting anything any scientist says. And basically, many of us agree with what you see anyway. It's not that we disagree with you. It's just that we haven't given you license to impose what you want to do or what you think should happen on all of us.
The scientists we're talking about are the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. They are non-political, and they are the world's leading experts on the science of climate change and of what's going to happen. So, you know, I'm not going to get into the politics of the way that the science was interpreted by the government during COVID, which I think very many of us find deeply problematic, and it was very convenient to their ends. But I think when we are seeing the consequences of this climate breakdown on our doorsteps, we are seeing it already. 60 people's houses burnt down in wildfires last year. We've had Hertfordshire and Dorset and Somerset under water, under horrendous floodwater in this country this week. If you look around the world at what's happening in Canada, where there are wildfires stretched across vast territories, where we've got landslides and floods happening in Europe, we've got record-breaking cyclones in Malawi, we had a third of Pakistan underwater next year. The media really has got a responsibility to be explaining to ordinary people exactly why those of us in Just Stop Oil are taking this kind of action. And I'm not sure that the media is really doing that job well enough, Vanessa, because when all of this is going to be happening, and it's starting to happen now, and it's going to intensify, I think people are going to be looking and asking, did Just Stop Oil do enough?
Chloe, thank you very much indeed. There's no denying your passion, there's no denying your eloquence, and there's no denying your politeness either. But if you were sitting in front of my car, I'm not sure how much I'd be influenced by that. But I thank you very much indeed for putting your case so well. Thank you.